the Joe Verde training program, How to Close More Sales. This program was designed by Joe to help you close more sales, overcome your customers' objections, stay off price on the lot, and hold gross. There is also homework and a quick quiz for you to fill out at the completion of each tape in this series. And now, let's begin. Here's Joe.
Okay, we've talked about building value, we talked about closing the sale, we talked about those 5 techniques for closing, 5 techniques for overcoming objections or handling objections. We talked about closing, then we got an objection, we talked about how to find the objection, now we need to talk about how to close on the objection. We have a close, now we have an objection, now it's time to close. On page 74, what we want to learn to do is turn a no into a yes, we'll take it. Now, some of the things that we're going to talk about sound similar to some of the things that we've already talked about. It's kind of like a summary close. You use a summary close out on the lot, you may even use it 2 or 3 times to lead up to closes. Well, you like it, don't you? Yeah, and it has the equipment you wanted, doesn't it? Yeah. And you'll use it to lead to a close. Sounds like we found a perfect car. How do you want it registered? You get an objection, and you may use that summary close again. You may be inside negotiating, use the summary close again. It's not like you use it once and you have to throw it away and you can never use it again. You'll use most of the things we've talked about in all the previous tapes. They start coming together in these last few tapes and these last few techniques, and I hope you're starting to see that. Let's talk about what to do when we get an objection. Page 75. How to turn a no into a yes, we'll take it. We need to learn to turn these objections into opportunities to close. Every objection is a chance to lead to another close. So objections are fine. They're okay. We really like price objections because they turn into which objection? Budget objections. Very easy to turn them into it. Page 75. Remember, when it's time to close or when we're handling a reflex objection or anything else, do we want to add resistance or lower it real quick? You want to lower it real quick. It's like we were talking about, I'll think it over. First thing we said was great. Number 1, agree. First thing you want to do on a lot of objections is to agree. It's like, this is too much money. Customer said, the example A there. You're looking at a Mustang, and he said, but this Mustang's more expensive than the Camaro. I'm going to go back down there. Agree. Yeah, Bob, it is. And, you know, thousands of other people like yourself are making a decision on the new Mustang instead of that Camaro. And let me show you a couple other reasons why. And then you lead into your next close. You lead into a mini presentation. You summarize. Now, you like this, don't you? Yeah. And you like that, don't you? Yeah. You know, Bob, sounds to me like this Mustang is perfect for you and your family. Were you going to put your wife on the title or just... and then close again? So this leads you to a closing opportunity. Every one of these is to lead to an opportunity. Example B. Customer says it's too much money. Say, absolutely, and that's why you should get it. I guarantee you that'll throw them. That'll get you a response. They'll go, what? What do you mean that's why I should get it? Well, Bob, you're trying to trade a car that you've only had for 2.5 years. You financed it for 4 years. And the last time you bought a car, I'll bet you bought just what you could afford. Is that right? So, well, yeah, you know, I was on a budget then, too. I'm still on one. So, I know, Bob, but let me ask you a question. The longer you keep a car, the less it costs you, doesn't it? I mean, when you try to trade a car too soon, does that make you money or cost you money? So, well, yeah, it costs me money. And then the longer you keep it, the more it saves then in the end, because the longer you keep it, you won't lose any equity in it. You won't have minus equity. And it sounds to me like whether you keep the car for 2 years and you try to trade it because it's not the one you want, or you get the one that you really like and keep it for 4 years instead, sounds like either way the cars are going to cost the same. And in fact, that cheaper car may cost you more in the long run. You know, I understand you're on a budget. Let me ask you a question. If we could find a way to fit this thing in your budget, would there be anything else holding you back? Gosh, no, Joe. If you could fit it in my budget, I'd take it. All that does is lead us into an opportunity to close. Agree. Yeah, it's too much money. That's why you should get it. What? And then step by step by step, lead to another opportunity to do a summary close or lead to an opportunity to close the sale again. Page 76 is another version of a summary close. It's called a 5-question close. You're going to, when you ask for the order that first time you're out on the lot and you say, Bob, sounds like found a perfect car, how do you want it registered? You're going to get reflex objections. I don't want to say most of the time, but more than 50% of the time. More than 50% of the time, you're probably going to get a, well, Joe, and then you're going to get one of those reflex objections. We ought to think about it. It's a lot of money. I ought to check with somebody else. Those are common reflex objections. I never treat that first objection as a serious objection. I figure that's the I'm scared to say yes scenario, and they throwing out something they don't really mean. So I always treat that very lightly. The 5-question close is just another summary close, and it works real well when they say, Joe, I think we ought to think this over and get back to you. And now you can change the words later in these, but to fill in the blanks, and 5-question close. I think we better hold off a couple days before we do anything. Why? You like it, don't you? Well, yeah, we like it, and it's the one you want, isn't it? Well, yeah, I guess it is. Besides that, you've both really worked hard and you've earned it, haven't you? Remember, earned it, deserved, those power words we talked about? This would be the time to use some of those. Why, you've earned it, haven't you? Well, yeah. Plus what you're saying, I mean, you can afford it, can't you? I mean, this is in your budget, isn't it? Well, yeah, I guess we really stretched. Well, let's go ahead and wrap it up. So it's just a short summary close. And again, you could change it to whatever words you need to fit the situation. And again, this works real well with that first reflex objection, especially a summary close right after that. Why? You like it, don't you? Yeah, it's the color and equipment you like, isn't it? Yeah. And you said it's going to be perfect for you and your business, isn't it? Well, yeah. You know, Bob, sounds to me like you're in that spot everybody gets in about this time. You just got nervous because it's a big decision, and I understand how you feel. Tell you what, we'll do this real quick, get you out of here so you'll hardly even feel the pain. Seriously, now, how are you going to register it in your name or her name? And go back and close again. Nothing bad happens. What's the worst thing that could possibly happen with any of these methods? They say no. If they say no, we use a 2-step, or we use the 1-step, or we go to a Ben Franklin. If they say no, we say why. Well, Joe, you know it's a lot of money. Well, Bob, sounds like you're on a budget. Yeah, and it's continually back and forth. You know, it's like we're out on that path again. It's just another objection. We don't turn around because we get objections. You got to quit pulling that business card out and dismissing people as soon as they come up with a couple of objections. When they say no, if they meant no, wouldn't they turn around and walk away? But most of them don't turn around and walk away. They say no, and they stand there. What they're standing there waiting for is for you to go ahead and do something else to try to close the sale. I want the car. I need you to help me get it. Page 77. This also works well with that first reflex objection, but it's a good close with almost anything. We want to take the objection and make it very small. They come up with an objection, Joe, I like the car, but we wanted blue. Let's say that they were buying a car for their daughter. He was concerned about safety, economy, and dependability. I want to make safety, economy, and dependability real big in their mind. Safety, economy, and dependability, and I want to make blue very small. Now, this is the objection. I like the car, but we wanted blue. Reduce it to the minor point and close on the major benefits. Bob says, Joe, we like the car, but we really wanted blue. Bob, let me ask you a question. Is your decision to purchase going to be based on the safety of this car for you and your family, the economy that you said was so important, and the dependability and knowing that your wife won't be stuck on the freeway out here one day waiting for a tow truck, or whether the exterior color is blue or white? Reduce it to the minor point. Now, when we ask a closing question, what are we supposed to do? When I finish that closing question, you're going to make a decision on this, 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 or this. What do I have to do? What's that old rule? You're right, shut up. Stop talking. Once I ask a closing question, I have to stop talking. If I say something else, I cancel my closing question, and I have to go back and ask it again. Don't be afraid. The worst thing that'll happen is they'll say, nah, Joe, like we said, we got to have blue. Well, then you can take care of that objection later. But is your decision to purchase going to be based on safety, economy, dependability, or the exterior color? Or it's like you're selling a car to somebody and they say they're just going to use it back and forth to work. They don't really carry people with them. They're concerned about economy. Economy is my main concern, and a comfortable seat. And you look at the car, you drive the car, and you ask for the order, and the customer says, nah, you know, and they pick an objection out of the blue. Joe, you know, I kind of like the car, and they walk around the back, they say, but this trunk is awful small. Gosh, Billy, I understand, but you're going to be driving the car most of the time by yourself, aren't you? Well, yeah. And you said that you don't really carry much stuff then, do you? Well, no, not really, but you just never know. Well, Billy, let me ask you a question. Is your decision to purchase going to be based on the economy and comfort of this thing for you back and forth to work, or on how big the trunk is? Well, Joe, I wished it had a bigger trunk. I know, Billy, and I wished I'd have won that lottery last week, too, but that didn't happen either. Seriously now, how do you want it registered? Okay, put it in my name. Close. Don't be afraid to close. Don't be afraid to say seriously now. Don't be afraid to say what I just said or something like that if you've built rapport. The key is you got to build rapport. I build so much rapport. I spend a lot of time building rapport so that I can stretch that rapport later. I want to be able to say to Bill or Bob or Sue or Betty, anybody else, When they say, but I wished it had that. I know, and I wished I'd have won the lottery, or I wished I wished I'd have born rich, but that didn't work. Seriously now, how do you want it registered, your name or somebody else's? Just take it step by step. Nothing bad happens. Page 78. Another close, previous product or service satisfaction. You got a customer that's been selling Fords, they've been driving Fords forever, been driving Mercedes forever, or if they have their car serviced in your dealership, something like 75-78% of the people buy a car where they have their service. That's why a service department is such a good prospecting area. If they've had their car serviced at your dealership, or if they bought a car from you, let's just take one. If they had their car serviced at your dealership, but they say, Joe, I may go down the street to buy my car. Why? You've said you've had good luck with our service department. Well, I can buy my car somewhere else and have it serviced here. Absolutely, of course you can. But you know what you miss, Bob, by doing that? Is I don't get to help you. I mean, I'll be nice to you. I'll wave at you when you come in service. But if you ever have a problem, I'm not going to be able to help you because I have to work with my customers. Now, your salesperson down at ABC, wherever Mercedes is, not going to be standing there to help you. And if you've ever needed a ride home, if you've ever missed a day because your car was in service, I mean, we got a great service department. But that happens in any service department. The one thing that we can't replace is that salesperson who will be here to help you. You know, Bob, and then I'd go into a summary close or something. You like the car, don't you? Has the color and equipment you want, doesn't it? You know, what would you expect to save down the street? 50, 100 bucks, something like that? You know, you'll blow more than that going down the street to look, see if they even have a car. And I don't know if I mentioned it before, this is the only one of these we got, and these things sell like hotcakes. Let's go ahead and wrap this up, get you out of here so you can start enjoying your car. And in fact, let's go over and reintroduce ourselves to the service manager. And you go over and introduce him to the service manager. Service manager, this is Bob. He's getting his new Mercedes, Ford, Chevy, whatever it is here. And close again. Take it step by step. Don't be afraid to close. Nothing bad happens. What if you try to close and they say, well, yeah, you know, I've had some problems in the service department, or I had a problem with my Ford, Mercedes, Chevy, whatever it is. If they're back, they may have had problems, but they're willing to look at your product again, or they wouldn't be standing there. They're hoping there aren't going to be any more problems. So if he says, yeah, but I had a problem. You know, I had a Ford before, and I had several problems with it. Bob, Ford Motor Company is always improving its products. Let me show you some of the changes we've made in the last couple of years. I think you're going to really like them. And then go into another mini presentation, another summary, and then close. Again, take it step by step. You've heard me say this a couple of times. Page 79. One of my favorite closes, especially on that first reflex objection. Seriously now. Just seriously now. Bob says, well, you know, I think we're going to go shop. Bob, you're such a kidder. Seriously now. How do you want it registered, in your name or her name? Nothing bad happens. Again, I need to have built some rapport so that I can do that. I'd like to get a $2,000 discount, right, and I'd like to win the lottery. Seriously now, quit screwing around. How are you guys going to register it? I know you want the car, it's got everything you want, and you may do a mini summary without even them nodding. I know it's got the color you want, it's the equipment you want, and I know you guys, I know you're just pulling my leg. Come on, let's get this over with. Don't worry, if they're not pulling your leg, they're going to say, whoa, you got to be kidding. I'm serious. I'm going to go down the street. I think I can save $2,000. Well, then you just question that. Well, Bob, what do you base that on? Yeah, they had an ad in the paper this morning. What's our script when they say they saw an ad? Bob, you understand advertising, don't you? Pause just long enough for the question to sink in. Advertising, when you ask that question, you imply that there's something not quite what it seems to be with advertising. So, Bob, you understand advertising, don't you? You know, and I'm not saying they don't have a car down there for that, but a lot of times we'll do the same thing. We'll run a car. Do you remember the 3 criteria? We'll run a car that's maybe been in stock too long, maybe a bad color, even one with a little minor lot damage, and we'll offer a special on that. And, gosh, were you looking for a car with some lot damage? Well, no, of course not. You know, Bob, sounds to me like you just want to make sure you get a good deal. Am I right? Yeah. Bob, isn't a good deal a car you like at a price you can afford from people that'll take care of you after the sale as well? Well, yeah, Joe, but you know, I just don't want to spend too much money. I understand. Whoops, there's our service manager. Let's go over and introduce you. I wanted you to meet him before you leave. And you go over and you talk to the service manager, you build some more rapport, you investigate some more, you close some more. You say, well, sounds like we need to wrap this up. Let's get you out of here so you can start enjoying it. You don't ever have to go back and say, Bob, are we okay with the $2,000 now? You close to your satisfaction. You handle objections to your satisfaction. You don't have to keep referring back to the objection. Now, did we handle that objection, Bob? If you didn't handle it, don't worry, he'll say no again. If you say no, you say why. And you go through the process again and again and again. Now, you don't just say why to every objection. You have to change it a little bit. That's why you need to know so many different methods to handle objections. Seriously now, it's a nice one. Page 80. Let long-term savings close. Just kind of back to that story we were just talking about. It's a lot of money, so I think I'm going to try to find a cheaper car. Bob, you probably did that last time. Now we want to throw in some logic here. You probably did that last time when you're out looking for cars. You bought the car that was the cheapest at the time, and now 2 years later you're trying to get rid of it. Bob, when you try to get rid of a car too soon, does it cost you money? Well, of course. And so if you keep it longer, then it doesn't cost you so much. Is that right? Well, yeah, sort of, but you know, that's a lot of money. You know, Bob, when we look at payments, there's hardly any difference in the payment. So let me ask you a question. Assuming that everything worked out and this thing fits your budget, if we fiddled with figures and you looked at this and you said, gosh, you know, I can handle that, would there be any other reason we couldn't send you home in it now? No, gosh, if I could take it, if I'd handle it, I guess I'd take it. All of these methods are to lead you to an opportunity to close. You won't use the script exactly like it's on the page. You know why? Because the customer's not going to say their words exactly. And if they say a different word, you have to change your script. That's why you need the yes questions, the either-or questions, the sharp angle closes. That's why you need those assumptive statements, questions, and closes. That's why you need to learn to bypass, clarify, isolate, overcome, and rephrase objections. Once you have all these techniques down, you just know what to say. It just comes up. You just have practiced, drilled, and rehearsed so many times that what you should say will be there. You just have to trust the system with practice. It's like, again, the boxer who's boxing. He works from reflexes. Doesn't think about what he's going to do. Works from reflexes. You don't think about what you're going to say next. You've practiced, drilled, and rehearsed so many times that you know what to say next. And that practice, drill, and rehearse is what your homework is to help you do. And if you'll do the homework the way we define it, you'll find that this is very easy to do. You can learn it in a very short time, or at least a fairly short time. Page 81. Another effective close is the new car trade-in close. This is the one you use with Bob when he says, and I want to thank Bob and Betty for helping us out through this series. It's real nice for them to let us use their names and everything. And they're pretty good customers most of the time. Have you noticed we work on pretty easy customers most of the time? A lot of you in class, a lot of salespeople in class bring up the toughest customer. They say, well, what about this guy with a chip on his shoulder? If we were talking about the people with the chip on their shoulder, the ones that bring in their price book, the ones that would say, I'm going to shop 7 places, out of every 100 people we talk to, how many of them have a chip on their shoulder? How many are that toughest customer? What, 2, 3, 5? Somebody said 10, 15. Make it 20 if you want. I don't care. If 20 come in with a chip on their shoulder, they're real tough. Doesn't that mean that the other 80 aren't? Would you want to spend 12 tapes learning about the other 20, or would you rather learn to work with the ones that we can work with out here? Most people are very nice. Most people have some reflex objections. Most people have some concerns. Most people are very nervous. Most people don't want to be pushed. They want to feel good about their purchase, and these techniques work with almost all the people almost all the time. There'll be that exception, and in real life you might be talking about 5 out of 100 instead of 20 out of 100. There'll be the exception, but you know what? If you never learned to handle the exception, you'd still get rich. In fact, we were talking at the very beginning of this series about who your most productive customer is. I don't believe that repeat customer comes in with that chip on his shoulder. I don't believe they come in with this price book under their hand. So these techniques are to work with the majority of the people. This new car trade-in close, Bob says, you know, he's on a budget. The budget's come out, and he's talked about that throughout your presentation a little bit. He says, yeah, we're on a kind of a tight budget. I'm getting a car for my daughter. I've got to make payments, you know, gas mileage is important. You got all the budget concerns in there. And you try to close, and he says, well, let's go ahead and wrap this up and get you out of here. And he says, no, you know, I think I'm going to hold off for a couple months on this. Now, when you use this close, you don't tell them things, you ask them things. Say, Bob, wait a minute, I'm confused. He says, well, Joe, what do you mean? Well, you said you guys are on a budget, but then you said you're going to wait a couple months to get a car. And he said, well, yeah, that in a couple months we'll have more money. So, Bob, and this really helps if you got a pencil and a piece of paper handy. So, Bob, do some figuring there for me. And maybe you do it for him. Say, Bob, if you keep your car, traditionally, does your car go up or down in value? He says, gosh, it goes down. So, you know, if it goes down on an average of $100 a month and you keep it 2 more months, it's worth $200 less. Now, let me ask you another question. Our cars, on average, do they normally go up or down? He said, well, gosh, yours always goes up. If they only went up $50 a month overall in a year's time, and that would be low in today's market, if they only went up that much, a couple of months from now, our car cost you $100 more. So, Bob, if I understand it, your car goes down. If I understand it, our car goes up. So the longer you wait, the further apart we get. Is that what I understand? You know, you're on a budget, you're trying to save some money. Let's get this thing over with quick, and we can save you at least $200 or $300 by doing it today. If you wait 2 months, you'll need another $300 just to break even. Seriously now, how are you guys going to register it in your name or her name? And try to close. It'll either work or it won't work. Have faith. This example works real well. Page 82. The close that works real well with professionals. Page 82, a close that works real well with professionals. Professional accountant, attorney, doctor, somebody that doesn't get a regular paycheck, salespeople. You know how sometimes they come in, this is called a time is money close. Page 82, time is money. You know how sometimes they'll come in, not sometimes, they're like everybody else, and they say, I'm going to shop the price. And you're talking to this professional attorney, accountant, doctor, and you say, well, Dr. Bob, let's go ahead and wrap this up. And he says, you know, I think I'm going to check down the street a little bit. For what? Well, you know, I saw an ad down there, and they've got cars for a lot less. Well, Dr. Bob, you understand advertising, don't you? And I'm not saying they don't have a car down there that might be a little less, but most people don't realize sometimes old inventory, wrong color, maybe a little minor lot damage. Tell me, since we all pay the same, in real life, if you were looking at the same car, and I don't know if I mentioned it, but this is one of our most popular models. In fact, getting these is like pulling teeth. We had a truck drop some off the other day. They were gone before I even got here. I think we're lucky to even have these 1 or 2 out here. On the most popular color, how much do you think the guy down the street's going to save you? $50, $100, something like that? And he says, well, I can probably save $200 or $300. Well, now, Dr. Bob, you're a professional. If I understand how you guys get paid, you probably make, what, $100, $200 an hour? And he says, yeah, at least that. So, well, if it's only $100 an hour, if you're trying to go down the street to save $200, if you spend any more than 2 hours going down there to find a car and get it, then it's already broken even. 3 hours going to cost you money then, isn't it? Joe, you're trying to sell me a car. Well, Dr. Bob, you could have been a detective too, but then time would still be money, wouldn't it? You know what I'm trying to point out is it's going to cost you the same either way. Let's go ahead and get this thing wrapped up, get you out of here so you can start enjoying your car. If he says no, nothing bad happens. You go into, well, why? Like I said, I want to save some money. Okay, let me ask you a question. It sounds like you're on a budget and you want to feel like you're getting a good deal, am I right? Yeah, I'm not, you know, this $200 may not be important to you, but it's important to me. Dr. Bob, isn't a good deal a car you like at a price you can afford from people in a place that will take care of you? Yeah. And then you go through and you come up with another close based on that. Nothing bad happens. And if I could make you understand that, how many times do you have to close? 80% of the time? 80% of the time? 5 times before you get an order. You may close 5 times. If you stop and think about it, a lot of people don't want to close because of the possible rejection. They're afraid to close because they may get a no, so they never ask, and the answer defaults to no. They just don't realize it. But if you ask, and it takes 5 times to get to a yes, and your average commission's $250, if you say, Bob, can we sell you a car? He says no. How much money did you just earn? $250 divided by 5, that's $50. So, whoa, just made $50 here. If he says no again, you just made another 50. Ask him again, you just made another 50. I mean, if you get up to 10, 12, 15 times, it's going to be a good voucher when you finally get it. Remember, if he meant no, he wouldn't be standing there. So what they're saying when they say no is, Joe, based on what you told me, I can't say yes yet. Give me some more information, make me feel better about my decision, and ask me again later. So you don't just whip out your dismissal slip and get rid of people. You keep trying and trying and trying, and you close and close until you close the sale or until they leave. Now, a lot of people confuse non-confrontational selling with being persistent. I say close until they leave. And I can see a lot of people would say, yeah, but I'm not out here to make people mad. I didn't say make them mad. I said keep closing until they leave. You close and close. If you look at that same 100 people we were talking to a while ago, and I know this is a common question that you guys have, or a common objection, minor objection. We're concerned about not offending people, and so am I. I'm a professional in sales. It's not my job to offend people. I'm not going to push them. I'm going to persuade them. I'm going to be persistent. But if I just ask 100 people to buy, if I asked them as nicely as I could and even apologized as I asked, would I offend 1 or 2 of these guys? I would offend a couple of people no matter how I asked, simply for asking them to purchase. Should I quit asking people to purchase because I may offend a few? It wouldn't make sense. I'd miss the opportunity to close with the other 98. You want to close professionally, you want to close without pressure. But you do have to be persistent. And I got to remind you again, if you're not persistent enough, or if you don't have the skills, you're going to do a nice job on the lot, you're going to build value, build rapport, investigate, present, and demonstrate. You're going to close 2 or 3 times, and the customer's going to leave. And who gets the voucher? I forgot. I think it's the guy down the street or the lady down the street who doesn't do anything except talk price, put them in the booth, and close them. You did the work. You got them excited about the Camaro, the Mercedes, or the Ford. You convinced them that they should buy today, but you just weren't persistent enough. And a persistent person down the street is going to make your sale and make your commission. I got tired of sending my money down the street. These guys didn't even send me a referral fee. Page 83. You know, sometimes when you try to close the sale and you do offend somebody, not offend them, but they're taken aback. You were just nice and friendly. They didn't realize you were actually selling. And you're going through the whole process. And you say, well, Bob, sounds like found a perfect car. And he says, whoa, wait a minute. I told you we weren't buying anything today. We were just looking. First thing you need to do is back up immediately with body language and tone, inflection, everything. Go, whoa, guys, I'm sorry. This is called the apology close. Bob, sounds like we found a perfect car. Whoa, wait a minute. I told you we weren't buying today. Back up quick. Whoa, Bob, I'm sorry. You know, I have to apologize. You guys seem like you like the car, and I got the best job in the world. I get to go out here and help people find a car they like. And back up, you can see them settle down a little bit, and then I'd go straight to a summary close. It's, Bob, I have to apologize. You know, I get kind of excited. I know you guys like the car. I mean, you do like the car, don't you? Well, yeah. And then they generally say something like, and I'm sorry I overreacted. Well, I understand. I know how you guys feel. It's a big decision. But you all do like it, don't you? Yeah. And it has the color and equipment you wanted, doesn't it? Well, yeah. And Bob, you know, I understand this was a little bit of a shock to you when I asked you that, but if you don't mind me asking, what's the one thing that's holding you back? Well, Joe, you know, it's a lot of money, and we're on a, you know, pretty tight budget. I don't know if I told you, but my wife's not working anymore, and I got to support the whole family. I got to do this. Gosh, I can sure understand that. But no matter when you get it, whether it's today or a month from today, it's going to have to fit your budget, isn't it? Yeah. Bob, if there was a way that we could fiddle around with the figures here and we looked at the numbers and you were okay with it and you felt that would fit your budget, would there be any other reason we couldn't send you home in it now? Gosh, no, Joe, if it fit the budget, I guess I'd take it. Great. Can I get you guys a cup of coffee? You want something cold to drink while we go through and take care of the paperwork? Oh, I'll have coffee and she'll have... It's easy. Does it work every time? Of course not. You may get a different objection, you'll get a different response, but if you're armed with enough techniques, nothing bad can happen. Page 84. Remember, we're still out on the lot trying to get a commitment to purchase. Page 84, the lost sale close. The lost sale close. And in case I forget to cover it here in the workbook, if you can't sell it, turn it. If you try all of these things and you don't get anywhere, turn it. Half of something's better than all of nothing, and that other face may be all it took. Another person saying the same thing you said, there's no telling what will cause the person to buy. I'm a firm believer in follow-up, but my odds of getting them back are less than my odds of never seeing them again. If 33% come back with good follow-up, 67% don't. You need to do everything you can to close this sale. Again, without pressure. And again, when you turn it, you don't say, oh, let me go get my closer real quick. You turn it professionally, and again, you scratch your ear and your friend walks by, and you say, oh, would you do me a favor and help us out? Page 84, this has to be the last technique you use on the lot because this is called the lost sale close. The lost sale close. It's kind of like the Columbo close, you know, how Columbo used to in those old movies. He would pressure people there for a little bit, and then he'd walk away, and he'd say, okay, I give, and he'd head for the door. What happens to people's resistance when you sound like you're heading for the door? All their buying resistance just drops. They say, nope, we're not interested. And you say, okay, I give. And you turn around and walk away. All of their buying resistance, all that negative energy they had to build up to say no, it just drops. And when you turn around, this is also called a doorknob close. You turn around and you say, oh, by the way, there was one other quick question I wanted to ask you guys. It takes them a while to build it back up, and you can very likely close the sale before they do. And that's what this technique works off of. The lost sale close. Bob, it sounds like found a perfect car? No. You tried everything else? He says, no. No, 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 I'm leaving. Say, gosh, Bob, I understand you guys aren't going to buy a car, but if you would you do me a favor before you leave? Yeah, Joe, what do you need? No, seriously, it's kind of important. Oh, yeah, sure, we'll do it. Say, Bob, you know, my family depends on me for support, and this is how I make my living, and I just need you to help me so that I don't make the same mistake again. If you don't mind me asking, what did I do wrong? I mean, you guys said that you needed a car to go back and forth to work. You might do a little minor summary here. You said you needed this. You said that, that color was important. You said you guys had to have a sunroof. And since my family depends on me to bring home a paycheck, tell me what I didn't do right out here. I mean, everything sounds right, but somewhere I've missed. What was it? Now he's going to tell you, he's going to say, oh, Joe, it's nothing you did. It was color, equipment, price, whatever it is. It doesn't matter what the objection is. What we did with this lost sale close is pull out the objection, and then we used one of these techniques we talked about to handle the objection. Oh, Joe, it wasn't that. It was just the color. Like I said, we really wanted blue. Gosh, Bob, other than blue, is there anything else holding you guys back from getting this thing? Nah, if it's blue, I'd take it. Let's reduce it to the minor point, close on the major benefit. Bob, gosh, I understand that, but you guys have said safety, economy, and dependability were so important. Is your decision to purchase going to be based on the safety, economy, and dependability, or whether this thing's blue or white? Well, I guess we could be a little flexible. What would this thing run? Gosh, I don't know. I guess we could go ahead and fiddle with figures there a little bit, but let me ask you a question. If we messed around with some numbers and everything kind of fell out all right and it looked like it'd work in your budget, would there be anything else holding you back? Nah, Joe, if it'd work in my budget, I'd take it. Great. Can I get you guys a cup of coffee? You want something cold to drink? That works a lot. And all you have to do is have the guts to try it. You have to memorize the words. You have to practice, drill, and rehearse. None of these works all the time, but all of them work some of the time. And when I'm closing sales, I'll go through half a dozen or a dozen different closing techniques. It doesn't matter how many times you ask. A lot of times they don't even realize they were asked. They just throw out reflex objections. It's not like they keep track. Wait a minute, Bob, Joe has asked us 17 times to buy. They don't keep up. If you're doing it professionally, they don't even realize you worked into a close, like the apology close or the lost sale close. If I do that right on the lot, and again, you slow down, not as fast as I'm going here on tape. You slow it down. If I handle this correctly, this is just conversational. You got to have that let down look. Say, gosh, help me, guys, before you leave. Do me a favor, my family. And you go through all that, and they say, oh, no, Joe, it wasn't you. Here's my objection. Oh, you got to be kidding. That's all. Well, Bob, let me ask you a question. And close again, and close again, and again, and again. What's your favorite there? What's your favorite of these closing techniques, these closing methods to overcome objections? Summary close, probably. A lot of people in class like this seriously now. Seriously now is kind of like, who's the lucky one who gets a car, you or somebody else? How many of y'all actually say that when a customer walks on the lot? Who's the lucky one who gets the car, you or somebody else? I can't tell you how many salespeople have told me how hokey that sounded to them before they actually tried it. And they go out there, for those of you guys who say that, what does your customer respond with? It kind of loosens them up a little bit. They say, well, I don't know if I'm that lucky, but... And then you're able to break the ice. It's much easier to build rapport. A lot of people would never try it because it sounds odd or it sounds hokey. I don't know if some of these closes may sound hokey. Seriously now, I don't know if you believe that'll work or not. If you try it, if you've built rapport and if you've built value and you've investigated properly, if you try it, it will work. Every time? Of course not. Nothing works every time. Your homework on this is to find the two most important closes to you, the ones that you like the best. And you need to practice, drill, and rehearse those. In fact, after the meeting or after this tape is over, why don't you guys talk about all these closes? Why don't you talk about how you could have used this one? Remember that deal you missed yesterday? What could you have done to go back and try to save that? Or what could you have done differently and tried to make it while they were there? At the end of every sale, you want to look at the things that you did that were good, and you want to look at the things that you did that you could improve, so that when that next customer comes around, you've practiced, drilled, and rehearsed, and you're ready to close the sale. We've got a commitment to purchase. We'll assume that we've got a commitment to purchase. We've gone through this whole selling process. We built value, we closed, we handled their objections. We have a commitment now. What I'd like to do is spend a few more minutes on the next tape, and I'd like to show you how to get more than just that one commitment, because all we have right now is one. Bob, if we can work this out, fit it in your budget, would there be anything else holding you back? No, if it fit my budget, I'd take it. That's just one commitment. In almost every case, you're going to go in and negotiate. Almost every, that's more than 50%. You're going to go in and negotiate. Would it make sense to negotiate with one commitment, or would it be better to have 10 or 15 or 20 commitments? I can show you how to get a whole bunch more commitments before you even sit down. I don't want a customer sitting down considering buying it. I want a customer who's completely made the mental purchase so that when they sit down, they know that all we're doing is paperwork. The objections I get in the negotiation or in the paperwork stage, as we finalize this sale, those objections that come up will be easily handled if you get more commitments. So I'll see you on the next tape, and we'll show you how to get as many more commitments as you'd like to get.
This concludes this segment of your training program. As Joe says, the key to your success in learning to close more sales and hold gross is to practice, drill, and rehearse the techniques he's giving you in this training series. And don't forget, be sure to complete the homework assignment for this tape before you go on to the next tape. Good luck on the quiz, too, and we'll see you in the next tape.